welcome to today's webinar. We'll get started in a minute. First of all, the audience is muted and the chat has been disabled, but we definitely want to hear from you, so please take advantage of the Q&A panel. We will try to answer as many questions as we can, just sort of on the fly, but we'll also make time at the end for a formal Q&A session. If we don't get to your question, definitely at least make sure it's in there, and we've got your email address. So we'll reach out after the webinar to provide an answer if we don't get to your question today. Lastly, if you have any technical problems, most can be solved by simply logging out of Zoom and logging right back in. So with that, let's meet our panelists. Panelist Trish, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Trisha Paige. I'm a compliance specialist here at CITTA Brokerage. I've been here about 6.5 years. I started my journey here in the operations department filing claims. But when I discovered that my heart did a pitter patter for regulations, I decided to switch on over to our compliance department. So that's kind of where I call home now. And I love it. So drawback's my thing. I love it.
All right. Well, we're glad to have someone who loves compliance, right?
Yes,
Because
yes, yes.
you don't want to file drawback claims that are not compliant. Am I
Exactly. If you want to
right?
keep your money anyway, if you want to keep your money, you got to make sure it's compliant. Yes.
Well, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Mhm.
You want to keep that money. You don't want to be asked to return it. I'm
Oh,
going to share
absolutely.
my screen here. Um, Let me know when you can see it.
I can see it.
Okay, awesome. So I'll just go through and give some basic background regarding
Oh,
CETA Brokerage. We have been in business for about 40 years. That's not only older than Google, it's also older than CBP's ACE portal.
mm,
So we actually have been filing drawback, back to the days of paper, right?
yes. Oh,
Um,
yes.
so yeah, but we've actually been focused on drawback exclusively for the last 13 years or so, Trish, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah. It's been, yeah.
Yeah, so that's basically what we do. So we're not competing with any customs brokers or other folks that may file drawback. Um, it's just what we focus on. We serve all industries because drawback is available for all industries. And we'll have a few examples of some industries that we've worked with in today's session. So let's go ahead and move on, and I hope that we're able to run the poll. Like I said, I think we may have lost our folks at WTC Denver. Not sure yet.
I still
Oh,
see them up there. Yeah. Yeah. I
okay,
still see
yep.
them up there. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
launch that poll. Okay, here we go. So, how would you describe your what? It's okay. We'll do that poll. It was a different one, but that's okay. Let's do that. Let's go ahead and do that one. How would you describe your organization, just so we know whom we're speaking to today? Are you both the importer and exporter of record? One, but not the other, or maybe you're kind of an ecosystem partner, contract manufacturer, or some in-between role. So we have a few poll answers coming in, I believe. And let's go ahead and show the results of that poll. Okay. Importer and exporter of record seems to be the most common answer. Trisha, why is that good? Why is that good news for drawback?
It makes things a little simpler because with the exporter but not importer, and importer not exporter, and intermediator as well, you have to get extra documentation. You have to get a lot more cooperation from the other parties. So if you're listed as importer and listed as exporter, everything's in one place, and it's just makes it a little simpler.
Okay, awesome. And then I did have another poll here. Maybe we can get that one up on the screen. It's also important for knowing a little bit more about our audience.
Yeah.
How would you describe your organization's experience with drawback? You do it all the time. You've started, but maybe it's kind of stalled. Not sure how to start, or like, what are you even talking about, Don? Is drawback what? So go ahead and mark your and if it's new to you, you're not alone. Believe me. It's a very niche sort of thing. Let's go ahead and show those poll results now. Okay, we'd like to start, but we're not sure how. Well, you're in the right place. One of the things that Trisha is going to talk about today is the privileges application because drawback is a privilege. It's not a right. It's not automatically given to either the importer or the exporter. So we'll get into those details a little bit later, but let's go ahead and move on and talk just about what drawback is in general. And this is where I'll let Trisha kind of take it away.
Yay! My family's excited because I usually talk about this to them. So they're like, tell somebody else. So
Yeah, I think my wife is tired of me talking about it.
yeah, it's just part of me. But so duty drawback is a refund of tariff imposed import duties, taxes, and duty. Oh, that was there we go.
There we go.
And fees paid on imported goods that are subsequently exported and destroyed. So it's just kind of a fancy way of saying if you import stuff in and then you export it out, you could possibly get some money back for the tariffs that you paid. So the concept is very simple, even if sometimes the process isn't necessarily that easy. But we're here to help out with that. We've got the experience, as Don had mentioned. So, and it is literally the only thing we do. We live, breathe, eat, sleep drawback. So if there's money to be made for you, we can definitely do that. Okay, so why drawback matters more than ever. There is a lot of different tariff mitigation strategies out there, FTZs, bonded warehouses, et cetera, et cetera. But for drawback, we're a little bit more flexible because with those other strategies, you're kind of moving forward with it. So you can import things into your FTZ or your bonded warehouse, and it's very forward looking. For drawback, we can go back 5 years. So even if you hadn't been thinking about it and now you're wanting to get some of that money back, we can help you. And as far as what you need to get started in that, it's a little bit easier as well because with FTZs, warehouses, things like bonded warehouses, you kind of have to change your software. You have to maybe change out your warehouses. You have to apply with customs. There's fees, things like that. And for duty drawback, that's not the case. We're already going to be using the documents that you keep in a normal course of business. So it's really a matter of ease, especially with our company, because we do help you. We hold your hand through the whole process, basically. So right from the start, we have an onboarding department that will even help you on what documents you'd need to pull, different things, and they'll help you reach out to customers. So they're really, really great. And as I said, it requires no upfront investments. So we don't get paid until you do. So there's nothing you have to pay. It's just a matter of pulling the documents, which sometimes, with going back 5 years, it could be a little on the challenging side, but we're here to help, definitely.
Yeah, there's actually, you mentioned bonded warehouses. I'm sure there's going to be, that's going to be one of the strategies that is included in this webinar series. Definitely something to consider. But, it does require some overhead, namely the roof.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Whereas drawback is just chasing the paper down, right?
yeah,
Chasing
yeah,
down those forms. So,
definitely. And you
so
can do
that's
both, actually, Dawn. You can actually, as you're getting your FTZ, because we have other clients that do this, as you're getting your FTZ or bonded warehouse organized and set up and all of that, you can be getting your application for drawback and get the retro done, as well as getting mitigating for the future. So that's also an option as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've worked with folks that are, well, we're building it now, but what can we do to mitigate tariffs in the
Yes,
meantime? Exactly right.
exactly.
So, yeah, so you explained, and I kind of skipped ahead. I'm sorry, but yeah, again, here's that definition of duty drawback.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Um, but stories are so much easier to understand. So that's how
Yeah.
it works in principle. Here's a story of how it works in practice. Trisha?
Yeah, GPC, Genuine Parts Company, Napa, basically. They're one of our clients, and I like to point out this quote. It's so great. You know the excitement of finding $20 in some old pants? Well, that was us, except it was 2.5 million. I kind of wish I had 2.5 million somewhere in one of my old pair of pants, but we were able to help them out. They had started to try to do it in house with a consultant, and it wasn't going well. They didn't have the experience with customs that we do. I work very closely with customs, just a lot of roadblocks, and I have the experience. Well, the company has the experience um, to mitigate the things that they're going to be requiring. So they came to us. We went ahead and set it all up for them, and within 11 months, I believe it was, we got them 2.5 million from the duties that they had paid over the last 5 years, and we set up their program moving forward where they would get $50,000 each month in regards to their tariffs. So they're pretty happy, and we're very happy with them, and it was a good experience for all.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um,
Mhm.
I actually pulled out an old suit the other day and I didn't find
Oh.
20 bucks.
Did you find
Guess what I
2.5
did?
million?
I, no, I found a parking ticket.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's the other direction. We don't want
So
that.
it's better to find money you're owed than what you owe.
I was gonna say you won't
Um,
be lunch then if you're gonna get 2.5 million in your
yeah,
pocket.
well, yeah, yeah, I could pay that parking ticket, no problem. Let's talk
Yeah.
about eligibility. We briefly
Okay.
covered this when we were talking about, who's on the call today. Uh, but again, I'll turn it over to you to talk eligibility.
Okay, great. Now, as long as at somewhere along the line you have ownership of the shipment, we can talk drawback. So, as we had said that as we saw in the chat, a lot of you are the importer and the exporter of record. Now, what I like to point out is that even though you may import it in and you may export it out, um, you have to be the exporter and importer of record. So that means that your name has to be on that entry summary document, and your name has to be on those freight documents out of the country. But if that's the case and you import it in and you export it out and you have access to all the documents, then you are eligible. We can talk drawback. Next, if you are the importer but not necessarily the exporter, if your name is on that 7501, but your customer is the one who maybe exports it out, or for any number of reasons, we can still get you drawback. We would just need to get their cooperation. We would have to have them sign a letter of endorsement. We would have to have them give us the documents. And I know that well, we'll talk about that in a minute, but if you're the exporter but not the importer. So let's just say that maybe you're a part of an umbrella company, and the umbrella company imports it in, but you don't, or you buy domestically from somebody who maybe passes that cost on to you, but then you handle the export. Like I said, we could still get you some drawback. We would just need to get that cooperation from the importer. They would need to be able to give us the documents, obviously, and then also sign some third-party waivers and things like that. But we handle all of those documents. So it's not something that you'll have to handle, except for maybe an introduction. So,
Mhm.
and then of course the intermediate consignee, which apparently is very difficult for me to say. Um, so just where you're not the importer record and you're not the exporter record, but it's still yours. It's transferred to you. You have ownership. Then maybe your customer sends it out or takes it out. We can still do that. It would take a little bit more because we would have to get cooperation from the importer and the exporter, but that's we can do that for you too. So in all of these cases, as long as you have ownership of it at some point, we can help you.
Okay, great. Good summary of who's eligible. We do find that when we speak to some folks at trade shows or wherever, they tend to self-exclude because they're not sure whether, well, I have to be the exporter as well as the importer, but it's just not the case. So let's go ahead and move on and talking about different types of drawback. And we have a little story that goes with each of these. So again, I'll let Trish take it away.
Great, great. So the first one we're talking about is unused merchandise. This one is pretty self-explanatory. You import in an item, it stays the same, you export it out. There's a few things that you can do to it. As long as it doesn't change the actual product or the use of the item, you can claim it under an unused item. And we have the regulation there because, as I mentioned, regulations pitter patter. So if you want to look it up, the CFRs, it's 190.31 and it'll give you all the information. But I think I might be the only nerd that might do that. But yeah, but the unused, like I said, it's pretty self-explanatory. And you can just if it comes in, goes out, you're good.
Yeah.
Okay, so the case study. So we do a lot with unused merchandise. In this case, the wholesale distributor of an industrial and construction supply. Say they were importing in some stuff from China, and as you know, with the 301s from past years, it can get pretty pricey. We were
Mhm.
able to do the 5-year look back for them and get $20.3 million back for them, and then we set them up for 800,000 per quarter getting that back. So it's going to help pad their bottom line and make things a little easier on the
Mhm.
finances.
Exactly. And I was actually speaking to this client the other day, and they love being able to say, we have a drawback program and communicating that to their customers because it indicates how they're trying to keep costs low for their ultimate buyer, right? So it's good for the company, but when you can communicate, we're doing everything that we can to save you money, then it just shows you know, your customers that you're doing everything you can to, mitigate those costs and not just pass them on without a second thought. We're going to manufacturing.
All right, manufacturing. So, a process by which merchandise is made into a new and different article having a distinctive name, character, or use requirement. Um, a process including but not limited to an assembly by which merchandise is made fit for a particular use, even though it does not meet the requirements of the former. And once again, with the regulation, um, basically, this is just if you import something in and then you put it into something, you make something, and then you export that final good out, we can help you. Um, if you, I like to say, like, if you bring in like a computer chip, if you import in a computer chip, you plug it into a computer and then you export that computer out, then you can get your tariffs back in regards to what you imported in. So that's kind of like a rough,
Hmm.
easy, simplified version, but it's usually a little more complex than that. But just to kind of understand is that's
Hmm.
what we can do.
Yeah. Even if the thing that you imported in, due to chemical changes in the manufacturing process, et cetera, becomes something entirely, the remnants that what results from that is then
Yeah.
exported. I mean, that's drawbackable as well. Drawbackable? I don't know. It's not. I don't.
It's a new word, but I like it.
Let's do it. Let's
We're
use
gonna
it.
do it. Yeah, I like it.
Okay, here's a story of one of the companies we've worked with.
Yeah, it's a beauty brand company. They do body care, fragrances, that kind of thing. They import mostly from China. They import in like the bottles and containers that they put the solution in. Um, because they do that here, they have contract manufacturers, which is another kind of layer of the manufacturing process where they bring the stuff in, but then they give it to their contract manufacturers that they contracted with to fill the bottles, to make the product, and then it comes back to them, and then they export it out. So there was quite a few of those, 2 dozen, in fact. Um, because we have the experience, we were able to help them and to go to their contract manufacturers, get all the paperwork and compliance stuff that we needed to be able to file with each one of those contract manufacturers, and ultimately got them $8.1 million back on their 5-year look back, and then set them up for $2 million per quarter. So that's significant.
Hmm.
That it definitely helped them to be competitive with their prices because they were able to get back those costs in other ways. They didn't have to pass it on. So yeah, it kept them competitive, and they're doing great.
Yeah. So actually, I was out at LuxPack LA last month. And, we were able to engage with a whole lot of folks in the cosmetics industry and packaging industry.
Mhm.
And so many, when we talked about drawback, and I'm just going back to what I said earlier, there were a lot of folks who were just self-excluding because they thought, hey, I work with, 2 dozen contract manufacturers. There's no way we're going to be able to, track down those documents. Well, we were able to do it. So it can be done. So don't exclude because it's complex. That's what you have a drawback provider for, is to do the heavy lifting on getting all the documents from the various, ecosystem stakeholders.
We love complex. We love everyone here loves puzzles. And so that's kind of what these complex ones are, like puzzles. And so we're kind of, I mean, we enjoy the complex ones. So bring it on. Bring it on.
Yeah, bring, bring,
Bring it
bring it
on.
on. So we've got one more type of
Mhm.
drawback.
Yep. And
Is
this one
that
is a rejected merchandise. So this is when it doesn't conform to what you bought. So if they sent you something and it was wrong and you have to return it, um, if it's been shipped without your consent, or if it's been determined to be defective, or something happened in transit, then obviously you should not have to eat those costs. We can help you to be able to get those back. And this is one we like to tell. This is a story. This is a very interesting story. I was actually
Well,
around for this
you may
one.
not like you may like to tell it. It makes me a little bit queasy.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
go
Well,
ahead.
it's definitely an interesting story. So, a seafood importer had imported some frozen octopus from China into Hawaii. This was back in 2021, and the refrigeration unit failed in transit. So the smell was interesting, I would imagine. You have some rotting octopus on the ship, but obviously they couldn't use it. They couldn't use it. They couldn't. I mean, nobody wants any kind of decomposing octopus. So
No, no.
we were able to get that back for them. We were able to recover the 35,902, which was 99% of what they paid. So so they didn't have to eat that cost. They could. It wasn't a total loss for them. So um, they were pretty happy. The person that opened the refrigeration unit wasn't happy, but
Right,
our client was.
right. Yeah, I mean that's a very interesting way to look at it. I'm sure they got their money back for the octopus from
Right.
insurance or from
Mhm.
the source or whatever, but they paid the duties before they opened up that, refrigeration unit, right?
Yes. Oh,
So
definitely.
those were paid, and that drawback is really the only way you can get those back.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Hey, we've had a question come in, um, and the question is, does it have to go to another country? What if it is on a boat or on an airplane that is constantly flying back and forth, over international waters or international um, seas, waters, skies?
Yeah. Well,
So
there's
does that
different rules.
constitute an export?
Not necessarily an export, but there is drawback that is set aside for this instance. It's called supplies for vessels. And so it's a little bit different through the whole process, but because it isn't technically an export, but yeah, we definitely can do that. We've had a couple clients that have that for ships and then also for airplanes. But yes, we can take a look at that. The paperwork is a little different. There's a little bit more involved as far as what we have to collect from the ship or from the airplane in regards to laden on board type of thing.
Mhm.
But yeah, we can absolutely do that.
Yeah. And I think, was it last year, 2 years ago? We had an inquiry from somebody that was sending a component, a satellite component into low Earth orbit. And they
Yes.
asked, does that constitute an export?
Yeah,
And sure enough, it did.
it did. Yes. So the sky's not even the limit when it comes to what
Ah,
industries we can get drawback for. So there you go.
the sky is not even the limit.
The sky's not
That's a
even the
good one.
limit.
I haven't heard that one before. Awesome. Okay, so remember, please put your questions in the Q&A. We'll try to answer them on the fly. And I hope I did that last question justice. Had to kind of shorten it a little bit, but yeah, let's go on to documentation, right? The devil is in the details, is in the documentation, right?
Yes, 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 yes.
So
And as compliance, this is
this is
my
your
jam,
jam.
guys. This is my
Yeah,
jam. There's a couple different steps. As I had said, we do have an onboarding. We have sales, we have onboarding that can help you get all of these put together and brought together. Getting started, obviously, we would need the typical, sales agreements. Power of attorney is very important. We have to be able to prove that you said we could work on your behalf. So we would need a power of attorney and that type of thing. As far as your the meat and potatoes of your program, we would probably just need to get some reporting. That would be important. Your 003 report from ACE, your AES report in regards to exports, and we can help you with all of this. So it's not something that you'll have to worry about too much. Oh, actually, could you go back one more? Because I think there's
yeah,
a
sure.
couple more
Okay,
steps.
yep.
Yep, there we go. So yeah, the import and export documents, once everything's in place, our onboarding team will work with you to get your import and export documents for us. If you have if your importer has a portal, you could even ask for us to get access and we could pull them for you. We have the capabilities. So we can do all that and getting it collected. And then our onboarding team is really great as far as, seeing, letting you know exactly what we need. They'll take a look at your report and say, I need the 7501 document for these, or they'll say, I need the introduction to this person on on your team, or even like one of your customers, because then we can go to them and we can say, hey, we can work with them to get the documents to kind of make it easier on you, make it easy on them, and the whole nine. So, and then of course, number 3, legal and compliance. Yay. Legal and compliance, we have to put together a privilege application for you. And so that just basically tells customs that you're going to be filing drawback, how you're going to be filing drawback, and what you're going to be filing it on. So for that, we will need to collect one sample document from start to finish, just importing it in through your inventory and then back out again. And I think we have another screen for that. But yeah, we just have to basically have an application, and there's no application fee for that. So we don't have to collect anything from you to get that started.
Yeah. Okay. We had another question come in, and this is a really good one for folks to know whether or not this content is appropriate for them. Peter asks, we're a lot smaller than your case study companies. What amount is worth pursuing drawback?
Well, now, I mean, as far as the amount goes for the drawback in general,
Hmm.
I would say it's, that anything that's going to affect your bottom line, we look at it. Um, I unfortunately am not quite sure what our threshold is. I want to say it's, I'm sorry, I have no
Yeah.
idea. Is it
So
5?
it's 250,000
Okay,
in
perfect. Yes.
recoverable duties. Now,
Okay.
the good news is that, when you do that 5-year look back, that can come to fruition pretty quickly, right?
Mhm.
So, but if you're under that minimum, we actually have other drawback providers that we can refer you to.
Yeah.
So it's still best to, set up a discovery call, and whether it's with us or with whomever, maybe your current broker does drawback. We're first and foremost, we are drawback advocates.
Yes.
So if you fall below our minimum, or if it's too complex, or what have you, we will definitely forward you on to someone who does specialize in those things. There isn't too much that we can't do because of complexity, but could be a capacity issue, could be a volume issue. We'll find a place for you to get your duties back from Uncle Sam. That's our,
Yeah.
main goal here.
Yes. We want you to get your money back, definitely.
Yep. Yep. All right. So let's go into more about the privileges application,
Mhm.
specifically with that first type of drawback, which is called unused.
Mhm. Yep, we do a lot of unused. For on the import side, we need to collect your commercial invoice. So we have the part level information, packing slip, and then the entry summary, the 7501 document, which tells us how much duty you paid. So we need to have those import documents. For on the export side, we need to get that, obviously, your export invoice, commercial invoice, packing slip for that, and then the proof of export, which, as you see at the bottom, there's a lot of different qualified proofs of export. It's all in the regulations and all that, but bill of lading, the B3, or now it's called a CAD to Canada, pedimento to Mexico, airway bill, seaway bill, just any freight airway bill. Yeah, and those all qualify. And then for your privilege application, we also need to show the inventory process. So we have to show when you physically received those items into your warehouse, and then also when you withdrew them to send them on to your customer. So we would just need, and those can usually be a screenshot or inventory report or something like that. But like I said, we work with you in all of this, so to make it as easy as possible.
Okay. Got another question that came in. This one has to do with the type of documentation. Question is, does it have to be electronic?
As far as the documentation that they're giving us,
Yes.
it's easier, but it doesn't necessarily need to be electronic. There's actually been cases where our clients will send us boxes of documents, or we've even flown to them to help them collect those documents. So it doesn't necessarily have to be electronic. We can work with whatever you've got, and as long as you've got them, we can make them work.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Next, let's move on to the privileges application, the PA, as we sometimes call it, for manufacturing.
Yes. So that one, it looks very similar to the unused as far as the import and the export side. We just need to collect a few different things in the middle, basically. So in addition to showing the inventory for it going into your inventory and then back out, we also need to show the production dates, which means the date that that component was put into production and the date the finished good was taken out of production and put into your inventory. In addition, we have to also need the bill of materials. So the bill of materials, as I'm sure all of you know, is what will tell us what components go into that finished good, so we can make sure to get as much drawback on those components as possible into that finished good that's exported out.
Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
So, question that many people have, which is why we have this teed up as the next slide, is, well, gosh, that sounds great, but how long is it going to take?
Okay, so it is customs, it is the government, so sometimes it takes a minute. But we do, because we have such a great relationship with customs, we're able to really work with them and get things taken care of. So as far as, oh,
Whoops. Oh, sorry. I accidentally.
like, wow, 2 minutes already. Wow. I
Well,
blacked out there. I guess I must have.
don't you wish you could advance the timeline that simply
I
with
was like,
customers?
boom. I know, wouldn't it be great? But for when you first, the first people that you're going to meet with is our sales team, where they can kind of go over your documentation, go over your amounts, kind of give you a rundown of what the process looks like. And then once everything is good with that, that we have you sign obviously the sales agreement, which could take however long it takes for you to ask all your questions, for you to feel comfortable, and for us to get the working relationship started. Once that happens, then you move on to our onboarding team, in which case with our onboarding, that's where we collect all the import documents, the export documents, and that could take as long as it takes, especially if you're not the importer or exporter of record, because we'll have to reach out to them and get that information. We try to have it from start to finish 90 days is what we try. It can, each client is different, each situation is different, especially the complex ones, which we love. But our goal is 90 days from the time you sign to the time that we can get your first claim filed. As far as your PA, because we are also working concurrently with onboarding here in compliance to get your application completed. So once we get that completed, we get the trace, we get that submitted. Once that is submitted, we are able to file your claim that day. Now you won't be paid for that claim that same day, but it locks in the items because we can only go back 5 years from this date. It's you want to be able to file that claim and lock those in as quickly as possible so you don't lose anything on the back end. So that's the great news about that, is that once we get that PA submitted, we can start filing your claims. Now, if the once it's filed and once it's with customs, that is where it's out of our hands as far as approval goes. Sometimes they'll come back and ask us questions, and we can answer them, and we have a really good dialogue with them, and we have a good relationship. So it goes pretty quick as far as that goes. But it could take approvals from 3 months to 18 months. I know that sounds tough, but it could. But we work really closely with them to try to get that as early as possible, the approval. And then once you're approved, we get that approval. Then you get paid within about 45 days from the claim moving forward. So we just have to get that approval first, and then the payments start rolling in about 45 days after each claim.
Okay. So that's really good to know, because the once the PA is filed, then your drawback provider can or should start that 5-year look back, right? Because
Yes.
otherwise, every day you wait, those duties expire, right? And it's the
That is
date of import that we're looking at, not the date of export, right,
Yes,
Trisha?
and because the export is after the import, yeah. So that usually will drive it, is like the import, but it's 5 years for the import export. But yeah, it's very important, and that's why we do the PAs concurrently with the onboarding, so that we can make sure that when that PA goes out, that we're ready to file that claim, because
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to file the PA and then wait and wait and wait and wait. So we do our best to make sure that PA is done early and compliantly, of course, so
Mm-hmm.
that we can get that claim filed as soon as possible and make sure we can maximize your refunds.
Right. Uh, Another question just came in. Has CBP been affected by the government shutdown? Or
Yes,
this arm of it, I guess, maybe is the
yes,
question.
yeah, yes and no. So they are still working. They're still looking at applications. They're still importing things in, all that good stuff. As far as the claim payments, those have pretty much paused. They're still sending things to Treasury, but Treasury's not processing and sending those refunds out necessarily. So they are kind of keyed up and ready to go for when the shutdown stops. And as I said, they are still working on all the back end stuff. It's just the payments that have been paused.
Mhm. Okay. So in a sense, drawback is kind of playing the long game,
Mm-hmm.
but what's the alternative? Leaving
Yeah.
the money just unclaimed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, let's move into our Q&A session.
Okay.
Um, Everybody, please put your questions in now. Like I said, we'll try to get to as many of them as we can. Um, so let's see, this question we kind of already answered. Hard copies, yes, and statute of limitations, yes. Um, Here's a question that we export goods from various importers and want to claim drawback. How in the world can we get them to cooperate? They probably don't
Okay.
want to share information about their costs.
Yes, and that's very common. That is very common. So what we can do is we can reach out to them, or you can introduce us. We can reach out to them, and we can have them sign an NDA, or we could sign an NDA for them. And so that we kind of act as the middleman, where they don't see your documents, you don't see their documents, and we just kind of collect everything. And sometimes that works even better, because then they feel a little more comfortable, things like that. I know there's a lot of clients that they'll maybe incentivize them a little bit with, as far as like, okay, if we get, 100% or 99% drawback, maybe we'll give you 10% for each claim that you're on, or whatever works for them. It's kind of a negotiation type of thing in some cases, but we can sign that NDA with them so that they feel comfortable to share that information with us.
Okay, great. Well, I don't see any other questions that have come in, but maybe from the folks at WTC, do you have
Yeah.
questions
Thanks,
that
Don.
you've been kicking around?
Thanks, Don. Can you all hear me now? I
Mhm.
don't know what happened in the more when I was kicking off. I got kicked
Oh,
out. So I apologize for that. I had a really
no
proper
worries.
intro for you and
Oh, I'm sure it was
um
glowing, right?
well, maybe you could just talk a little bit more about people are going through the process of filing refunds and protests for IEPA.
Yeah.
Can you just talk a little bit about the difference between some of the, 301, 232, or IEPA tariffs and where you're seeing most of the drawbacks fall within? Maybe you said that, but perhaps I was kicked out and didn't see it. So sorry about that.
No worries. And before we talk about all of this, I'm just going to preface that by saying I am not an international trade attorney. I don't
Okay.
even play one on TV. So this is all this is
Yeah.
all just my thoughts and musings. But yeah, with the IEPA tariffs, I don't know how much everybody knows. I'll just kind of like do a brief little thing, but they're doing their phase one rollout first, obviously the number one. That one is probably going to be around April 20th is when it's finalized for phase one. They're still kind of saying, if we might have to test, we might have to do some things, but they're saying that phase one is supposed to be ready around April 20th. And that one is only going to necessarily be for unliquidated entries or entries that are within the first 90-day voluntary reliquidation period. So that is going to kind of the easier one, the low hanging fruit type of thing. They don't really have a date for the phase two rollout, which is going to be for
Mhm.
the final liquidated entries or anything that's a little more complicated. I would imagine that once we get closer to that April 20th date, they're going to go ahead and let us know when the next date is going to be going. But they did an update on the 31st, I believe, and they were saying how they're, um, gave the percentages of what it's done. And I'm actually very proud of them because sometimes customs is a little slow. So the fact that they're actually going to meet that April 20th is, yeah, I'm very proud of them. but
Great.
um, but yeah, so now it is going to be it's not necessarily going to be automatic though. So they have it's called CAPE is what the program that they're rolling out for. It's
Yeah.
Consolidated Administration and Processing of Entries, I think is what it stands for.
Yeah.
They look
Our last webinar last week covered some of that. I wasn't meaning for you to
good.
go into all of the detail, but just sort of like what tariffs are you typically seeing drawbacks on? Is it the
Okay.
301, the 232? Is it the IEPAs?
Oh
Where are
yeah.
people actually which ones are the ones that people are typically claiming back?
Okay. 301s are a big one. That
Okay.
we're able to get back for everybody. And it's actually kind of good news because they're doing more 301s. They're actually right now we're in the comment period for the new 301s, which is going to be, it's not just China anymore. It's going to be like the first one is for the overcapacity. That one, there's 16 countries that are included in that investigation. And then the other one, which is the forced labor, is there's actually 60 countries.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a big one. I believe that it's going to be very significant, and 301s are absolutely eligible for drawback. So
Right.
once those come in, we'll be able to get those. So that's kind of a big one. The trial period for the new ones are beginning of April. So I'm sorry, beginning of May. So
Right.
we'll know a little bit more by then as far as what's included in the new 301s. But we can definitely keep an eye on it and whatnot for that. The
Okay.
232s, there are some that are eligible. A majority of the 232s are not eligible for duty drawback.
Okay.
The lumber is and some automotives. They just came out yesterday. I haven't had a chance to
Hmm.
really dive into it, so I can't speak too intelligently on it. But about the copper and aluminum, that there's some countries and some instances where those 232s are going to be eligible for drawback in regards to manufacturing. So that's exciting, and
Right.
some pharmaceuticals that are also going to be included for drawback. So There's going to be some 232s that are definitely eligible, so we'll have to kind of take a look at it case by case to see what's allowed. There are the 122s are eligible for drawback.
Right.
I know that there's about 24 states now that are that have lawsuits out for that, but so we'll, to be continued kind of thing. But they are eligible for drawback as well. They're only allowed. I think the last day is in July, end of July is when those are gonna end. But he could go to Congress and try to get those extended, or maybe try to do another round, or I know there's talk about 338s that he might be putting into place. I haven't looked too much into those yet because they haven't even been talked about, but it's something that's a possibility for the future. But the 301s are in current investigation. So
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I think it's really important to note that, when the IEPAs were deemed illegal, we all were waiting just to okay, what's the administration going to do next? Because tariffs are definitely a part of this administration's trade policy. The 301s were introduced by Trump in his first term and remained in place through the Biden administration as well. So undoing tariffs is maybe not the easiest thing, but certainly they are a part of trade policy and will continue to be so. And I'd say the other good news about drawback is that I think more often than not we see the eligibility expanding for drawback as opposed to reducing it, restricting it. Because even when the idea of drawbacks was hatched, um, back and signed into law by none other than George Washington himself,
yeah,
the idea has always been to help U.S. businesses be more competitive. That's really been the whole idea.
Right.
Oh, I'm sure
So
that put a smile on old George's wooden dentures. Didn't he
I
have
have
wooden dentures? Do you remember hearing that when you were in
I have
grade
another
school?
question, Don. Sorry,
so
let me get one more question in if I can. So the one of our future webinars will be on foreign trade zones, and I know a lot of people ask us, when should we just stick with the drawback program, and when should we maybe initiate a foreign trade zone? Do you have any thoughts around those different tools, and what would constitute a good strategy forward using foreign trade zone over duty drawback?
great, yeah. As far as foreign trade zones go, moving forward is obviously the ideal for that, because anything that you've brought in previously you couldn't just put in there because you've already paid the tariffs. So that's one thing. If you have a lot of ineligible duty drawback ineligible tariffs, that might be a good strategy. Just because if you can't get that back, then using duty drawback, you're going to want to not have to pay them at all, or pay a lesser amount. So that might be a good way to go. As we talked about earlier, we can actually do both if that's what you're working on. If you're getting that foreign trade zone or the bonded warehouse up and running, and it does take a little bit to do that. There are things that you have to do up front. There are a lot of inspections, things like that. So you could be doing that at the same time while we're doing your retro piece, so we can get the items back for that you've already paid on. And then once you get that foreign trade zone up and running, you can go ahead and start using that. And then if ever it changes or things like that, your approval for duty drawback is forever. So if we do the PA and you do that first claim and you get all your retro piece back, and then in 5 years you decide the foreign trade zone isn't working for you and you want to go back to duty drawback, we can absolutely continue on as if you never left, because that application is good forever.
Great.
So
Well, thank you. Thank you both for this content and great information.
Yeah.
Again, I apologize for the intro. I'm not exactly sure what happened. I actually went through the whole thing and you guys didn't hear it. So I'd like to thank both of you for being part of this today. CITTA is a member of the World Trade Center Denver, and certainly these experts are great examples of who we have in our network of global trade professionals. So depending on your company's needs, whether it's duty drawback or foreign trade zones or just filing refunds right now, please feel free to take a look at the chat. I've put in a discovery call form that we're collecting information on. And remember, if you do schedule a discovery call here through this form, you are eligible to possibly get up to $1,000 back in credits from the Office of Economic Development and International Trade. We do have some qualifying criteria for companies that are eligible for that grant, and that is you need to be in operation for 3 years or more in Colorado. You need to be a producer. So that's an importer or a manufacturer of goods or possibly a distributor. And then you need to share with us some impact data if you could support from us. So yes, so please if you would just click that link in the chat and schedule your discovery call, and then we can get started and finding the right expert for you. It may be Trisha and Don here. It may be others depending on what you need. So I want to thank you all for joining us today for today's session. And before we close, I would like to introduce our partners at OEdit, Emma Howard. Emma, are you with us?
I am. Yes. Thank you,
Perfect.
Karen.
Thank you.
And thank you, Don and Trisha, for a fantastic presentation today on duty drawbacks. I hope folks are able to make use of what they learned or of your expert services to bring some money back into their companies and reduce those costs. As Karen shared, I am with the Office of Economic Development and International Trade. My name is Emma Howard. I'm a senior manager in the Business Support Division. And I wanted to share a little bit about how this program came to be. As Karen mentioned at the beginning of her introduction, we are creating programming for businesses to combat the negative impacts of tariffs, thanks to an executive order from Governor Polis asking OEdit, the Office of Economic Development, to study the impact on Colorado businesses and make recommendations as to programming to mitigate the impacts. So this tariff navigation program, in partnership with the World Trade Center Denver, is an example of one of those programs that we've implemented to help Colorado businesses better understand tariffs, navigate the uncertainty in this rapidly changing tariff ecosystem, and to hopefully save money and mitigate risk through expert services and briefings like today's webinar. We also have one-on-one advising available for any business owner who's interested in some support in that form. That's no cost through our Small Business Development Center. We have a number of access to capital programs that are available for businesses that are facing any sort of capital or cash flow shortfall. And we are always interested in hearing more about how businesses are navigating this tariff ecosystem, what challenges or benefits you all are facing as business owners, and if you have thoughts on the best way that OEdit and the state can support you through this challenging economic time, please do not hesitate to reach out. I'm going to put my email in the chat. I believe it will also come to you all via email follow-up when you receive the slides and the link to the recording for this. And I will also share in the chat the report that OEdit published in conjunction with the Colorado Department of Agriculture and the Colorado Department of Labor and Employment, reviewing the challenges and benefits that we identified through interviews with Colorado businesses and how we are mitigating those. So you all can review that. And again, please reach out with any questions. If you have any tariff-related needs, we are here to support you. And thank you to World Trade Center Denver and to Don and Trisha for this webinar and partnering with us to ensure Colorado businesses have the information they need to move forward with confidence.
Emma, thank you so much. And thanks for your support. Okay, so you heard it. You'll be getting an email following this. We will provide you some additional information in that email. And don't forget that we have a series of 6 webinars that we are launching as a part of this program. So stay tuned for future webinars that we'll have on our website at the wtcdenver.org. And And also just keep in touch with us if you'd like by joining our signing up for our newsletter. You'll hear about all of our events coming up. So thank you again for participating today. And thank you to Dawn and Trisha, and thank you to CITTA Brokerage. We're excited to work with you all going forward in mitigating and hopefully at least navigating these tariffs. So well, have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.